Hi, everyone. My name is Dexter B. Jenkins, and in this short amount of time I have with you, what I want to do is I want to talk to you about 3 ways to enjoy uncommon financial success. And if you're like me, which most of us are, none of us want to have anything that's common. You don't want to live in a common house. You don't want to live in you want to drive a common car. You don't want to have a common career or average and ordinary career. You don't want to have a common spouse. You want the most handsome woman that you can walking on your arm. And you want the most beautiful woman on your arm that you can get. And you want the most handsome man that you can get on your arm. So none of us want to enjoy anything that's common. And it's the same thing with your finances. We don't want to enjoy common finances. You think about, what's common nowadays. Most people, statistics tells that most people don't even have $1,000 saved up for an emergency. Or it's common for people to live paycheck to paycheck. Or it's common for, maybe people to grind and work hard and bust their behind and work for 40 years. And then at the end of 40 years, have live off some sort of fixed income. Or if they have busted their behind for 40 years and have some sort of financial success, but because of the grind, they have very little vitality, very little strength left to go to enjoy what people would call their golden years. And so that's common. And if you're like me, most of us don't want what people commonly get. And I'm going to quote my daughter, who's 23 years old. She always says to me, "Yuck, daddy." And I say yuck back. None of us want to enjoy common financial success. So how do we enjoy uncommon financial success? I'm going to give you 3 keys to doing that. The first key is, if I want to enjoy uncommon financial success, the first thing I've got to do is I've got to develop congruency between what I believe, what I think, and my attitude towards money. And that's where it starts. I find that there is a disconnect between what people say they want for their financial futures and what they really believe, their attitudes and thought processes around money. Maybe they picked it up in maybe their church, or maybe they picked it up in their home, or, maybe they have this weird thought process that is wicked to be wealthy and to be poverty, and if you are poor, that that you're more righteous. And so we pick up a lot of like I like to call stinking thinking in that area of our lives. And so I'll give you an example. This was years ago when during my financial services days, I set an appointment with a young woman, and what we wanted to talk about, she said she wanted to talk about, was planning for retirement. She wanted to talk about, sending her daughter to college. She wanted to talk about buying a home. So I set the appointment. And as we're talking back and forth, and somehow it came out that I'm a Christian, she's a Christian, and she says to me, and maybe she said this to be impressive, but she said, "Dexter, I don't care anything about this world's riches. I just care about going to heaven." And well, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, why am I here? Because that's what we're talking about, is, planning for your future. And needless to say, that young woman and I never did business. And I believe the number one reason why we never did business is because her thoughts, her belief systems were not in alignment. She didn't have a congruence about enjoying uncommon financial success. So that's the first key. You got to develop that congruence. Number 2 is you got to play both offense and defense when it comes to your money. I'm of the firm opinion that most of the financial advice that most people receive right now is really defensive minded. So things such as, you want to live beneath your means. You want to put together a budget or spending plan. You want to save your money, and all those things you should do. But all of those, in my mind, those are defensive strategies. Now, if you want to go on an offensive strategies when it comes to winning the money game or enjoying uncommon financial success, really deals with how do you explode your income. It talks about how to become an investor. So whether you're an investor like a real estate investor like myself, or whether you're a stock market investor, or when it talks about entrepreneurship. See, when you're on that, when you start talking about those type of things, exploding your income, you're talking about investing, you're talking about entrepreneurship, that's when you're really going on offense when it comes to winning the money game and enjoying uncommon financial success. And so you got to play both offense and defense. And I would say I want you being more offensive minded than defensive minded. I'll give you an example. There's a young man by the name of Patrick Mahomes. If you're a football fan, you really follow this. He plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. Many of us, you at least have heard who Patrick Mahomes is. And If you know anything about that team, they're very explosive offensively. So you know this. You know that in order to beat the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, you probably will at least have to score at least 24 points or 27 points in order to win the game. So it's not going to be a defensive game. It's going to be an offensive game. And I would dare say to you that in order to win the financial game, to enjoy uncommon financial success, you've got to go on offense. Listen to me. Every year, you are fighting three things. You're fighting debt, you're fighting taxes, and you're fighting inflation. You're fighting those three things. So just say that your fiscal year is January 1. Just say our fiscal year begins, our personal fiscal year begin on January 1st. You know, every year that insurance is going to be more expensive. You know, every year inflation, things are going to go up high. You know, every year you got debt payments. And so I've got to play offense in order to get over that. And so the same way you got to play offense to beat up Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs is the same way in order to enjoy uncommon financial success. You've got to go on the offense. Of course, you got to save money. You got to put the spending plans. You got to have emergency funds, things of nature. But listen, you've got to think about exploding your income. You have to think about becoming an investor, whether it's real estate investing like myself or stock market investing. And you got to think about some sort of entrepreneurship. So that's number two. Number three, if I want to enjoy uncommon financial success, I got to create and develop this thing called financial leverage. Now, let me define what I call financial leverage. Financial leverage is the ability to earn increasing amounts of money with less effort. So less mental effort, less physical effort. And that sounds pretty good, right? More with less. And if you don't have financial leverage working for you, Warren Buffett said, you're gonna, if you don't learn how to have leverage or learn how to earn money while you sleep, you're gonna work until you die. So you've got to learn how to create financial leverage. Now, mostly everybody out in society understands that. The people that we deal with, so just say our financial institution, where we go make some deposits in ABC Bank. Well, ABC Bank doesn't leave your money there. What they do is they leverage it. So they'll put it out in student loans. They'll put it out in personal loans. They'll put it out in mortgages. You know, they'll put it out in credit cards, but they're leveraging your money. So they're taking your dollars and creating leverage with it, right? And making more with less. And then then maybe your landlord, if you've been if you are a landlord, or if you've ever rented an apartment somewhere, well, your landlord took a portion of the rent and paid their mortgage with it. It probably paid all or some of the mortgage that was on the place. And so they understood this thing called leverage. Or your employer, maybe you're part of a department, there's 10 of you guys in the department. Well, in the department, and everybody's working 8 hours. They recognize that they are leveraging 8 hours of work to meet the objective that the corporation has set. So everybody else understands leverage, and for the most part, most people do not. And so if you're going to enjoy uncommon financial success, you've got to become proficient at establishing for yourself financial leverage. Now, I'll give you an example. My father was a barber for 60 years, almost 60 years in New Haven, Connecticut. And my dad was very ownership minded. So he would always say to me, he was like, Dexter, whatever you own, make sure whatever business you start, make sure that you own the building. So just in case, so you can always basically control your own destiny. And so my dad bought a two-family, actually a multi, it's a commercial space, but on the first floor it had a barbershop with space so he could run his barbershop out of, and then he had 2 apartments off it, both of them 2-bedroom apartments, and then also had 4 garages. So he ran the barbershop out of the first floor, but he also rented out the units, the two apartment units and the garages, and so it brought him income. And so one day he and I were talking, and I have an uncle by the name of Uncle Julian, and Uncle Julian had rented from my dad for over like 20 plus years. And I said, Dad, well, how long has Uncle Julian rented from you? And he said, Dexter, he's been with me for about 20 years. And so I said, well, how much did you charge him? And my dad gave him some sort of family discount, but he gave me $800 per month. And I said, well, if you did 800 times 12 months times 20 years, it came up to be $192,000 that my dad had received from providing housing for my Uncle Julian, right? And then I thought about it, and I said, well, Dad, how much do you charge per haircut? And my dad had averaged over a 20-year period about $15 per haircut. So I did the math and said, okay, so If you received $192,000 from receiving rents, and then you went out and physically had to perform haircuts for $15, how many haircuts would you have had to perform to make the same $192,000? And when I did the math, I divided $15 into $192,000, and it came out to be 12,800 haircuts. Did you hear what I said? 12,000. My dad would have to have performed 12,800 haircuts over the same 20-year period to earn the same $192,000. And the point is this, and I'll quote a guy by the name of Myron Golden because I heard it from him. He said this and teaches this all the time. He says this: leveraged work will always be laborious work. Leveraged work will always be laborious work. Well, what happened? My dad created leverage by renting out that apartment to my uncle, and it allowed him to make the same amount of money with less effort, less mental effort, and less physical effort. So in order for you to enjoy uncommon financial success, you've got to get involved in what I call financial leverage. Now, remember, he had two of those, right? And he also had 4 garages. So that was only one unit. One unit paid him $192,000. The other unit paid him probably more than that because I think he charged the other unit a lot more. So, hey, if you're going to enjoy this thing that I'm calling uncommon financial success, you've got to do those 3 things. So just a brief recap. So number 1, if I'm going to enjoy uncommon financial success, I've got to make sure I got some congruence between what I believe, what I think, and my attitudes around money. Number 2, I've got to play both offense and defense if I'm going to beat debt, taxes, and inflation. And then number 3, I've got to create financial leverage if I want to enjoy uncommon financial success. Now, I have a resource for you. If you want to enjoy uncommon financial success, like I said, I spent over 20 years in the financial services arena, and I came up with something that I call the SHIP method, S-H-I-P, the SHIP method. If you go to my website, dexterbjenkins.com, I've broken it down to actually 3 things even there that you can do in order to enjoy uncommon financial success. You go over there, you can download that ebook, and that will allow you to enjoy this great resource. You go through put the principles in there, and it'll allow you to enjoy uncommon financial success. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. Be blessed. Bye-bye.